All right, so today I want to get back to the 3D multiplayer template. It looks like we left off with the jump. I think we got jump working somewhat, and it looks like I still have some commented code that as leftover from the work on that. So I also have some prior changes here, which I'm trying to look at and see if do I need to commit this separate or not? Sorry, I'm just taking care of some chores before I get into it. What am I doing here? This is like movement stuff. I think we can just merge these together. I think I can just add these and start fresh today. Remove this in flavor. Oh yeah. So we got our jump, got our move, and let's see. We've got this section down here, move. Let's go check it out. Let's go back to our move. So this is our move state. And let's see. What was I doing down here? Okay, so I just moved the parent.move and slide. So parent is referencing to the player. And that makes sense right there. So I think we're always going to want to apply that regardless of what's happening. So I think that makes sense. And I noticed that I removed this parent on floor check. And let's do a quick test. Okay, so the first thing I notice is I'm not turning without moving. So that's one thing. I'm not sure if people care about that. That's something that maybe I can just leave to the user of this template to adjust, or maybe I can leave an option, but it looks like everything's working. And then jump's pretty weird. He's going on really high. If I jump and then hit forward, does it work? If I jump. Yeah, I think what we need to do today is fix the falling animation. I'm just going to leave some to-dos. We need to fix falling animation or add animation, whatever, and then allow player to move while in jump state. So what that's going to mean is we'll need to add code for handling movement and jump fall. So we'll need that there, which, you know, I wonder if I'll have to move this camera stuff out from our move and have like a separate camera handler independent of this. And then we can just composition in whatever we need, because we're already kind of doing that with camera input, because I want to be able to just like move the camera around and apply those movements regardless of whichever state we're in. Because those camera movements just apply to this orientation field. So yeah, I think I might do that, but that's kind of coming later. And some of this code will also have to be in the jump. So we're going to have a little bit of duplication, but that's okay. You know, there's always an optimization that we could probably make and consolidate some of it if needed. But I mean, you're going to handle the movement code a little bit different in the actual jump state, because it's not going to be you're not going to be able to move as quickly. So maybe it'll work out. Let's just see what happens. So I want to clean this up a little bit. Just do that really quick. What's this? Okay, so let's also look at doing run. So we can also, so that's like falling animation, and then add run modifier. Okay. And I don't know where I'm going to put that yet, so we'll come back to that. And we did change, so we have this if we want to jump So if our get jump input is triggered, then we move to the jump state. Else idle. Yeah, I don't think we're going to be jumping and idle in the same state. So I think it makes sense to do an else if conditional on that. I had removed the velocity check here away from the movement, which seems okay. I even left a note for myself that says the camera rotation will also need to be in the idle. So I think maybe we move camera. So let me add that. So consider moving camera rotation out, camera rotation into own node, use composition in to the states. There we go. All right. So I think I have a good idea of what I would like to get through today. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get through all that. But so the first thing is our jump animation needs to be changed. So let me just get my bearings on that. So military male was the scene and animation player. I don't think these are all Kenny assets. And I don't think he has a jump, fall, or a fall animation. So I may have to crack open Blender and hack it together. Let's see, where's the jump? Why isn't he moving? Oh, wait, what? Oh, so maybe I wonder if instead of making, because it looks like jump doesn't even do anything. It's just there's no actual build up. Like he's not like springing up or anything. So it's a very simple jump. I don't know. Let me double check that that's true. Yeah. So he just goes whoop. So I need to lock him there. So how do we hold in a, okay, so let me go here. All right, so okay, I think what I need to do is create another state called jump fall or fall. Let's create it called fall. Let's create a new scene and we'll call it fall. And I think that's just going to be a node. And we're going to attach a script to that. Scripts, and I think I got a states folder for it, fall. We'll just start there. And of course, that's a state. Whoop. And let's open up another, let's move over my jump. So I guess, oh, I have another note here, add fall state. So that's what we're doing now. Okay, try adding. So yeah, okay, we're also going to do all that. So I can remove all that eventually. All right, so before I go any further, I got sidetracked again. We're going to add this stuff. Let's reduce this to 3. Nope, to 1, because I want to commit. Let's just stage all this stuff. This is our code cleanup. I'm going to leave this note here. I'm going to leave that out for now. I don't know what I changed there. But it shouldn't be a big deal. The fall scene we're going to leave out because I'm working on that. The jump scene we got wrapped up in the last one. Oh, I've got some notes on the idle. If jump, I'm going to leave those notes for now. This I'm going to leave out because I'm probably going to get rid of, again, we jump. Okay, we're going to do that. Leave that. And oh, this was that big blunder from the last video where we were using the gravity from the 2D, which was like 900. I don't understand that, why it's 900, but it was. So we just switched it to 3D gravity configuration, which was a 9.8, just more in line with correct gravity. And there's a debug statement. All right, so far we've got fall this session, the fall scene, fall script, move, to-dos, and the player controller. I'm just leaving this here so that I know to remove it. And I want to do a commit really quick. Just move that off really fast. All right. So yeah, the last time we added the jump, we fixed player rotation. There were some issues with that. And in this batch of changes, I should say, we added clients. We added this process physics client, which allows us to process the rotations of the player on the client side. Probably going to refactor that out later on. And also we added an RPC call to change the state on the client so that the client can run anything that's necessary or applicable from the state on the client side. I know that's a lot to digest, but that's what we did in the last time. And okay, so I just committed all that. So I think we're good. So that's what that looks like. I just added this little note here, and these are the things that we committed. So I'm on a fresh commit line this time, and we're going to start there so that I have a clean idea between the streams what the heck we're doing. So in the fall side of things, let's go back to, so we created the fall, and I'm going to need a process physics thing here, and I'm probably going to need a jump. No, I won't need jump velocity. We'll just need gravity again. Maybe gravity should be in our state, so I don't have to keep referencing it. Is that why he's not coming down? Because we jump, and then jump fall will need to apply gravity. All right, so so I'm doing two things at once. So let me do a to-do. Move gravity to state super. And then let's go to our player. And then I'm going to add in the state here. Let's grab this. And I think with that, when we hit the ground, we can kick it out to move, or we can kick it out to idle, depending on if we're moving. Why is it complaining? Oh, I actually should just return here instead of doing pass. Pass will work, but we have a return. So now it should show up. Yeah, okay. So we have an animation. So I think, let's just try to keep it to jump. And the state name here is fall. And I think I'm using lowercase naming conventions, right? Oops, idle. No, I'm using uppercase for the state name. So fall. So that's right there. Our move speed is irrelevant at this point, and I'm going to stick to jump. Okay. So when we jump, I have this little thing where we wait, and we're going to move. Let's create a new state reference called fall state, not to be confused with the insurance company. And instead of going back to move, let's go back to fall state. Nope. We're going to do return fall state. And then in our jump, we're going to drag a reference to fall. Starting to get the hang of this. So immediately when we jump, after whatever wait time it elapses, we're going to go here. And this should reference the gravity. So we need to apply gravity. So instead of putting it there, let's say function get, let's just do apply. Let's just copy it and put it there. Apply gravity. And I don't know if I want to put the check here, because maybe there's another time when you want to apply gravity, or maybe it makes sense. Maybe I'll just leave it for now. And then I'm going to leave it now. And then if we run into a problem, then we can change it. So where did I just get that from? That was under move. So if I remove that underscore and I blow this away, it should work. Apply gravity. And I think we also have it under idle, maybe. And we don't need that anymore. And on our fall, we'll need it here in fall. And that should just refer to the superclass there. And I think we're good. I think I can actually just remove that. All right, so we're cleaning up code. We're making changes. I think this should work. I don't know what's going to happen with the jump animation. Let's just play it by ear and see what happens. Well, I think the animation part's going to work because I didn't notice any weird stuff there, but he's stuck in the air. Okay. So maybe the gravity isn't working as expected, or maybe it's not. Oh, it's not actually. No, it should be going to yeah, it should be applying the gravity. So I'm not sure what's going on there. So right here, I think we go to the fall state. Let me check my output. Yep, it went to fall. So we know we're actually transitioning to the fall state. So I know this line was ran. So now we're in fall, and the physics process should be running, and it should be applying gravity. I'm not sure if parent is not on floor, gravity should be getting applied. Not sure why that's not getting applied. I mean, there's a chance. I mean, he was up in the air, right? It's not like I'm imagining like he actually is. So he's on the ground. Yeah, he's way up there. Oh, move and slide. All right. Yep. You gotta move and slide, everybody. So let's just go cheat and grab that from another script, do a fall thing and do a move and slide thing, and should work. So now he should jump, and then he should come back down. He's up and he's going to come back down. And then when he hits the ground, we're going to, let's say if parent, which is our player, is on floor, then we return, maybe we should return, I think we're going to need to do a couple things. I don't know where I want to go with this yet, so we're going to experiment. So for now, let's just do a move state and move him back to move. Turn the move state, and then if we don't want to do that, then we can change it. So what was that? Fall. So I have a move state parameter now, export now, and I'm just going to drag move state. So what that means is once he hits the floor, he's going to move to the move state, and now we're no longer in fall, and then the move state takes over, and then the move, I'm assuming, will say, hey, he's not moving, let's move him back to idle. And that might not work as cleanly as I had hoped. He's up, and he's down. All right, so he's up, and oh, we just fell to our death. Okay. I think our jump's going to need some work, by the way, but what we can optimize later. All right, so let's jump and fall. Okay, I think that's okay. Yeah. Right now I can't do any turns or anything. Wow. Is the jump actually like compounding movements, or is it just that? Here, let's try this. So let's move forward and jump. So the momentum of the forward velocity carries forward if you're already moving. So if you're moving and you jump, you're still going to move forward, which is pretty cool. You can't turn because I don't have the camera stuff in there. So if you're standing still and you jump, that looks pretty good to me. And that little, like, you know, bloop, right there when he hits the ground, I'm okay with that. Because then we let the move just take over and switch to idle really quick. You could get fancy in this fall and add another check in here. If he's on floor and he's still, if your velocity is forward, you can go into a run state, which would be move. Or if he doesn't have any forward momentum or velocity, you could just do back to idle. So this is a pretty good start. I think we got the animation thing done with the jump. I think the only other thing at this point is to allow for midair movement. Let me see if it's actually working. Is it? Let me see. So if I hit jump and I push left, no, it's not working at all. Here, let me try it. So jump, Yeah, it's just a optical illusion. Yeah, it's definitely not allowing me to move. I'm actually happy that's the case, because that would mean something was terribly wrong. All right, so if we want to be able to jump and move, we would need to be able to process inputs during this phase. So there's two things I'm trying to do now. One is the camera rotation, and the second thing is actually applying the motion of the input direction. So that's like this chunk of code here. So I think maybe we're due for a refactor to split these two things up, because I think that's going to be important once we get into our lag compensation. Let me remove this. I think that's pretty clear what I'm doing there. But also, so we fixed our falling animation, so we can get rid of that. And I want to do allow the player to move while in jump state. But I just thought of something. I have this little wait time, and I'm pretty sure it was needed, but I wonder if it's not. Let me just experiment. I'm pretty sure I need all this, but I like to just go back and experiment. So what I'm going to do here is, if you're on the floor and you jump, we're going to immediately go to the fall state. And I bet you, I think it's going to just slam me back down on the ground. Or not. That's actually much more reasonable than waiting for the... Yeah, this is probably a lot cleaner. Yeah, I kind of like this. Okay, let me run and make sure it's synchronized. I always like to do a true test. There's a client host. Let's run a host. And let's get over to here. Yeah, all right, this looks good. And let's just make sure that we can join on the final one, or we can synchronize everything. All right, cool. So we've got some basic movements, and I don't think we need this workaround, I want to say, that we did it from the last time. What this was doing, just in case anybody's interested later on, is when we initially jumped the player up, the way that I had done it originally, it just slammed him back on the ground. But because we're introducing a fall state, it allows us to allow the player to have his velocity applied, and then we transfer to the fall state, and then the fall state just says, okay, apply gravity, right? That's all we're going to do in the fall state. And it doesn't just immediately slam him on the ground like what we had originally done. And there was some issues during that development of the initial jump, like the gravity problem I was just talking about. So maybe there was an issue with that it no longer exists. So yeah, it seems like we don't need that. We don't need that workaround anymore with this jump stuff. So, and it looks like try adding minimum movement so player can move while falling could probably remove jump weight stuff and just immediately transition to fall state. Well, you know what? You were right. So past bad was correct, and we don't need all this stuff, and we can just do that. And then we can play around with our jump velocity. So if I want to make him jump a little faster, we can get rid of jump weight, and we can also get rid of jumped. So we're doing some amazing code cleanup today. And this kind of stuff, when you're developing out, you might have some code that you write that you end up removing. Just, you have to write some code to get to the correct code first. And I think this looks pretty good. Yeah, this is a pretty fun jump. I like 6.5 right here. I think this is great. Let me just run a client just to make sure. Cool. Let's turn back around. Okay. Awesome. All right. I like how that's turning out. Great. So we got some code cleaned up. We added a fall transition. Try minimal movement input so player can move while falling. Okay, we're going to work on that now. Okay, so back in our move, we have a lot of stuff based off this horizontal velocity and position target. We calculate a direction, and we do this all from a movement input. So I don't know why I've built this code up over many months and I made changes, and over time, maybe I lose the thread of those changes and don't really remember why some things were out of order like that. Like I think horizontal velocity can be declared down here and not where it was up here. You know, this has gone through several iterations of refactoring. That's okay. And our camera basis is used right here. And so is the input direction. And then the camera basis is created way up here, but it's used way down here. So we could probably move that down, except for the fact that we need this camera look at target, which is how we figure out our rotation stuff. So I think what we can do is I think we can move out this chunk of code and pass in this, right? Because everything else is in the parent. So this is going to be a function called something. Apply player rotation or player rotate. Rotate player model. Yeah, we got to call it something. So for now, we'll say, I want to make this, I'm not going to make this indicate this as private. I'm going to say rotate player model, because we're actually rotating the player model if you've been following along. And we're going to pass in this thing called camera Z, just like where we're looking. And I think I'm going to just still call it player look at target. And then we're going to copy this chunk of code. And I'm going to comment it out for reference. And then say rotate player model, and we're going to pass in player look at. Nope, we're going to pass in negative camera Z, right? Yep. And then up here, paste that stuff in, and it should work, except we don't have a delta. So let's make sure we pass in our delta. Right there. And I think that should do it. And I want to start. This is the first step in pulling out this rotation stuff, because I think maybe I'm going to completely remove it out of here, and we're going to put it in based off we're going to use composition. I'm going to create the plan, or like thinking out loud here, is to create another object called, well, we have a camera input, which is what? Which, the camera input is really just for input, and I even have its authority set to client side, so I don't want to put it in camera input. So maybe we'll create another object called player rotation handler or something like that, and we might move that to there. So let me just put a note there that maybe consider moving, and we'll just do it there. And that way we don't have this duplicate code error, because the whole point of why I'm talking about this is we need to be able to turn the player when he jumps, or when he's walking, or when he's idle. And so that's 3, because when we move to a state-based system, we're not going to be able to just have all of our code in one spot. So we need to really, it forces us to use composition to break up the code into those, individual chunks, so that it'll work properly everywhere. So that we can inject those things back into the states as needed. So I think that's okay. All right, so we have that, and let's just make sure I didn't break it by moving it over there. And then we have this physics process function. We also have this camera stuff. Maybe this camera stuff needs to be moved somewhere, because all we're doing here, it's like we're cleaning up the camera. We're zeroing out Y because we don't need it. Yeah, maybe this can be part of it. Maybe what we do, because we need the camera basis, and then we take that basis, and yeah, so this is really just figuring out like where we're going to be looking, and then we use that rotated function to get our camera basis, which is then applied to our input vector, and that's how we get our direction, and that's like really important there. So I think maybe what this should do is return the camera basis. Like maybe we move the input handler stuff, the camera stuff. All right, let's try that. So let's just remove it, put it in here, and then we return this magical camera basis, right? So we're going to return a basis here. And then we can just set it to var camera basis and no harm. What is not declared? Oh, well then we won't even need to pass that. Right. So we won't even need to pass that anymore, because we've just calculated that in there. I think that kind of makes sense. I think that'll make sense. And then player look at target is just the negative of that again. I still like that word because I think that helps me remember it. It's kind of a personal thing. And so I like to do that translation from camera Z to a player look at target, because that's just how I remember it. So the next time I look at the code, I'll remember that, because camera Z, you know, maybe somebody new on the team won't really understand that. All right, so our movement's working perfect. He's able to move wherever I'm looking, and I can still jump. All right, so that's working fine, that first refactor. So I'm really glad to see that. So we can probably remove this chunk of code. Monodirection issues resolved. Yeah, let me just move that note back up here, because I think that's where it was proper. And then of course I have a little, so this is our player rotation. And then this is our movement stuff. And it would be really cool to get it out of the just, you know, the physics function, just kind of float in there, because I think we need to reuse it, because this is going to move the player. Well, it's not going to move the player, but that we're calculating the direction that the player is going to be heading, and then we apply that direction. So I think we're going to create another function, not a string, and we're going to call it move player. And we'll need that delta again, float, and I should have probably added that up here. And down here, I think we can just copy. Oh, I guess I'll need to pass in a camera basis, which is cool. So let's just copy this out and leave it for reference. And let's say we'll pass in our camera basis, which is a basis. And I don't have any errors there. That's a good sign. And then right here, we'll just say movement player, or move player delta, and then the camera basis that we just got. And I think we can just return null, because I don't think we're returning anything in here. We're not doing any calculations in there. Our calculations about which state we're in are above it, which I think makes sense. In case we're, you know, jumping, we jump right away. We don't need to go through our movement code. If we find out there's an issue of order with the order of operations, yeah, we can fix that. I don't need to put that idle. We don't need to see this idle thing anymore. All right, let's run it. Let's see what happens. 1, 2, 3. All right, so we'll make him the host. Yeah, all right, so that's working. Cool. And let's go back to our other client. And he's absolutely working there. And another thing to add, just check the last one really quick. So now that I'm in here thinking about all three of them, another thing to add here is we have this function right here that is only going to run on a client side the way that we set up the state machine processing, I think. Yeah, right there, which is called from our player here. Yeah, so this is ran on the client. That has our rotation code in it. So in our move function, we have this thing it's going to rotate the. So what's happening is our player gets this orientation field is synchronized from here, right in front of me, right there. That field's synchronized. So this will be called on clients. So it'll be called on my client. Because we're gonna have like a server somewhere, right? So I'm a client, I'm controlling my player. So when I move, it'll rotate me locally, and then when you're playing in my game, it's this will be called, and it'll rotate my version of the player using this chunk of code. I think we may move away from that at some point, meaning we're still gonna run this code, but maybe we'll refactor it in a different way, or yeah, I'm just not 100% sure what we're gonna do with that, because right here, this rotate player these are the calculations to figure out where our player's rotated based on the player's inputs, and that's all handled on the server. And eventually, once we move to a lag compensation implementation, we may not need this. Like, we might just have one function, because right now this is two functions like that determine player rotation, and that may mean we aren't going to be deterministic. So I think what we'll do eventually is we're going to have one function that rotates the player, and that will be called on both client and server side, giving our lag compensation tool. So I think eventually this might go away. So I'm going to leave myself a note. This may, because I might forget that train of thought. This may eventually go away in favor of using a single move rotation function with lag compensation impl. All right, so I'm just going to leave that there because this is a work in progress, and I think some people want this code like ASAP. So I'm trying to leave notes as I go and remember those things, because I don't want somebody to get in, be like really shocked when I change something. So I'm going to put a note here in case anybody gets to that point. All right. And okay, so our player is able to move. I got it separated out into a different function, and I want to be able to rotate and move the player while he's in the air as well. So we may need to extrapolate or extract both of these chunks of code out and just use composition, like player movement. Even though we were using a move state, I may need to composition these out. If I jump, what would we need to do? We would need to probably run both of those. We would probably need to run both the rotation code to make sure he's still being rotated correctly, but then we would also need to make sure that his movement was still being applied. So we would almost have to like run these both for each state that we wanted those things to apply. So like while he's falling, we need to do that, and while he's idle, I'm sorry, not idle, but idle, we would do the rotation stuff. Maybe we should just try an idle, because that'll be a simple example. So the simplest way to do that would probably be to just copy this code for right now, because we're going to need to also copy the camera input then. And we don't have that here. So I'm going to copy in here, and this is probably going to be removed. Oh yeah, I need a rotation interpolation state. So I'm just going to do this. We're going to copy this. And I'm going to stick it down here because I know I'll remove it. And then we'll just need camera input ref, which is under here. Oh yeah, you will need this. Look, I even said consider moving to state superclass. So I was already kind of thinking about this. But that's not going to work because then I would have to drag it to each one. Well, that might be okay. Hold on, let me just one thing at a time. All right, so if we put it here, I'm going to stick them down here because I know, so I remember what I'm doing. And this is for idle. So then our idle state is going to need a reference to player. Nope, not that. Player model. Y. And then camera input. So in theory, what I just did is we're going to add a call to, where do I want to put it? I don't even think we need, what is this? Oh, this is idle. Okay. So let's just do this. So whatever is happening, did I just spell it wrong myself? That's weird. So if he's on the floor, he'll get kicked out of jump and we can still rotate the player in the meantime, because I think this will still loop. I think this is safe. So what we're going to do is in idle, I think we're going to be able to rotate the model. Let me just double check that that's going to work. Oh yeah, look at that. Perfect. So I can move and rotate, and then I can stop and rotate. So we have some duplicate code. Let's make sure it works on the other clients. So what's going to happen is on the other clients though, is I bet you it's not going to work because we don't have the client side implementation being ran. So it'll work on host. See, I'm able to stand still and rotate because of the code we just added, but it's probably not going to work here. I mean, it works on the host client because he's, of course, server authoritative. He's in control, but it's not going to work on the client. You can see he's not turning. And the reason is because we're not running that chunk of code here in that state as well. So I would have to copy paste this code on every single thing. So I think what we'll do is we're going to have a movement thing, like a player rotation node, and he's going to have this code and he's going to have this code. And then we're just going to composition that into this state. And then we'll just run it. We'll call it from here. Instead of this, it'll be like whatever the composition object is, whatever the thing is, dot rotate model, and then instead of this, we'll just have a function call here to the same thing, to the client version of that. Okay, so I think that's what I want to do. I think that's what we'll do. The alternative is to just stick everything in the state class, superclass, but then that's going to get really busy. We're going to put a lot of stuff that do all the states need that. Are there movement states that may not need that? I guess I could just stick it in the state. So that means, let's go back to idle. Yeah. So that means in the state class, we would have this big old chunk code. Every state would have access to camera input and player model, which they already do. Well, we would need it in fall. We would need it in idle. We would need it in jump. We would need it in move. So I think my little to-do here, when it was saying consider moving to state superclass, I think that makes sense. Yeah, because we're going to have access to the player model, and then we can stick the rotate player there, and then the move code there. I don't love this, but because then once you start modifying movement code, like I don't know. All right, let me do one thing at a time. And then if I don't like it, we can always undo it. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to move this rotate player model into our state. And again, I addressed this in one of the streams earlier that I believe state is kind of a misnomer here. I think it should be called like movement state. And I have this movement state machine, and then each one of these inherent from this state, and this should be called like movement state, and not just this plain state word. But I can refactor that at another time. So let's go down here and let's start doing this, and we'll do it until we feel like it doesn't work. So I'm going to need access to a camera input, a rotation speed thing, and player model. So we'll go back to move. Let me just move this up top, and then we'll do that. And we're going to take these guys and we're going to do that, but we should have access here. And let's not make them, let's not mark them private right now, even though they kind of are. And then we need the rotation thing, which is this, which I'm going to leave in here for the moment. And stick that up here. And then that will leave us with correcting the name and the player model name. All right, so everything should be okay. Because we renamed it and because we removed the export and we renamed it to not underscore, let's just change that to match what we did, because this inherits from state, which we were just changing, and this is complaining because we already declared that in the superclass, right? Yep. And now this no longer refers to the function that we had. It refers to the superclass version of it. All right, so I think this is going to work out. Our parent is already here. We already have a parent reference, which is the player. And I think this is a good refactor. And then everybody can access that. So what did we just do? Rotate player model. So let's go back to our idle. And I think we can essentially just undo what we just did here. See, we made a call here, but then we just added all this in the superclass. So whoops. We just added all of this in the superclass, so we can remove that. We still have our call, and now it calls up here because we're going to have to use this in every single state. Yeah, I think we could probably move this into its own object, and maybe someday you will, because I think if there's like different versions of this rotation stuff that your game may have, then that can be compositioned in. And what that means is maybe an idle, instead of just hard coding this into every single state, we use composition that encapsulates this code. And you'll have a node in your player that's like special rotation, normal rotation, or dash rotation, right? Like in a game where you can like all of a sudden turn on slow motion and then everything is in slow motion. Well, this calculation isn't going to work in slow motion, right? This isn't a slow motion calculation. You're going to have different physics processes to slow the character down in the game and like slowly aim across the screen, right? That's going to be a different thing. And when you get to that point in your game, you're going to have to say, all right, I can't just keep shoving all that code in this state class. Let's move it to a node, and we'll call normal rotation node. And then we'll say like slow-mo rotation node. And then you can just drag those nodes through composition. You could just drag it over, right? And put that to a new field that you add here called like rotation field, whatever. But at this point, we're not doing that. So I don't want to code for something that I'm not working on right yet. I don't want to code for the future on that. So, but we do need to add our camera input and our model for all this stuff now. which is redundant, but I think that's okay. So now all of our states have access to our rotation stuff. So in a jump state, in our jump state, we can still rotate. In our idle state, we can rotate, which we should probably just try out, right? So what is this? Jump. So I'm just gonna, do I want to put it here? Because if he's not on floor, it doesn't really do anything. Yeah, let's stick it there. I think that should work. And then when he's falling, he's also going to want to rotate. We did move gravity to the super state. I can remove that to-do. I love removing to-dos. It's like the best feeling. And then we even removed it out of our move state. So our move state just calls our superclass now that we just added. I don't know. Is this going to work? Okay, so it's going to work, but it's only going to work on our authority. Yeah, like everybody's going to be able to rotate correctly now in his idle, in the jump, in the fall state, but it's not going to show up on the two clients. It's only going to show up here because we're not running the local client version of that. And we're going to do that in a second. So let's just verify that everything's working. Okay, so here I'm in the client, the top right corner screen. I'm in here. So this is a client, and then the one in the middle is the host. So if I jump, you should see him rotate in the host in the middle, the client on the middle of the screen. So that, perfect, nice. It's not working on the client because we haven't ran that client side code that I just mentioned, but now we can rotate him and it's synced properly. All right, cool. So we need to run it. We need to run the client side code, this stuff. So I think we can do the same thing and pull it out, which again, may be removed in favor of a single rotation function with our compensation implementation, compensation. So let me call this something else. We'll call it, this is just a generic function that's going to run on the client side. Let's just call to a function that does this stuff in our state. So rotate player model, and let's do apply player rotation client, right? I mean, that's good enough for now. We're going to copy that. Do I need delta? I don't think I am. All right. So let's do delta. Right. Okay. So we're going to call that here. And now it should work. And now we need to, if it works, then we need to repeat all this for the move stuff. I fell off the edge. So now when I rotate, it should rotate, and it's not. It's still not. Uh-oh. It's still not applying his rotation. Okay, so why aren't you applying the rotation? You have this is going to be in the client context. So what's the problem? I didn't add a call to it. Okay, so that worked in move. So guys, okay, so we just didn't. I'm also going to add the comment. So we need to grab all of our code and put it in all the other states. Right. Okay, so we have, I think process input's going to get removed. All right, so we want him to rotate in idle, and we want him to rotate during jump, and we want him to rotate during fall. Yeah, and this is automatically called on every state. So if you don't need it, don't put it there, but it will be called automatically. So now it should work on host and client. So here's the top one's host, and it does work as expected. And let's do our other, yep. So look at that. So now he's rotating on the client and during a jump. Okay. So your guy will be able to jump and rotate as needed. And I just almost fell off the edge. And let's just test on the last one to make sure. Yep. All right. So you can have fun rotating your player, and you can adjust the amount of rotation there, but it is synchronized on all the clients. All right. So that's cool. Now I think we're ready to clean up a little bit. So let's clean up our code. And then I'm going to come back to this to-do list so we can clean all this up for now. Move, fall is good. Jump is good. Idle. I think we were just cleaning up move. Yeah. So we moved all this away. And now what we're going to do is let's look at our allow player to move while in a jump state. Well, we got that, right? He's able to rotate, and then we apply that rotation on the client side. So we got that. And we need to add code for handling movement in jump fall. So this was a separate to do. I don't know why I added it in one. So we got this to do done. Consider camera rotation. We're not going to do that. We discussed that a second ago, that's an improvement for you to make if your game needs that. And then we need to add code for handling movement in jump. Movement for jump fall. So what I'm saying by that is this move player stuff should also be in the state class. So we're going to do the exact same thing we just did with the rotation, except we won't need to do anything with the client because we're using position and orientation. I'm sorry, for movement, we're just synchronizing position. So that'll automatically, that's a built-in parameter. Orientation isn't. Orientation is something that has to be applied. That's why it's its own thing. So I'm applying it on the client side to the player model. Whereas the player's position is a built-in element or parameter or property is the word I wanted, property for the player character object. So we can just synchronize that position. Now you could get fancy with it and put in its own thing, like what I did with orientation. And you could probably do some lerping to maybe smooth out those movements. But that's kind of out of scope for this level. I mean, with the lag compensation stuff coming, I think we'll address that there. So the move player function, let's move that to the state superclass. So this is rotate on client, and then we'll just stick it down here. And then we need to move this speed thing. Is jump velocity even used in here anymore? It's not. So we're doing a lot of code cleanup today. You can probably remove that altogether at this point and stick it in state. Should probably be called walk speed. Let's get ahead of ourselves and just do walk speed because we're going to have run speed eventually. Right? Did I speak on that correctly? I think I did. Okay. So our move function will use the camera basis, the player's input from my keyboard that's synchronized, figure out a direction, apply a speed to it, and then we calculate the horizontal velocity, and then we actually move the player. So it's all pretty basic stuff. This stuff was a little complicated when I first set it up, but I think I got it all straightened out. So what we need to, why I'm saying all this is because this is moving the player based on wherever they're pointing the camera. Now, if you don't want that for your game, you're going to have to refactor this. This is just a template that you can take and run with. So now that we have the move player function that moves him in the direction of the camera, we are in our move. We can still call it, which we'll just now call the superclass version instead of the one here. We also need to be able to do that when he's falling and jumping, which is weird because we don't need to run move and slide again because I'm already going to be running it here. So I guess I could pull out move and slide. Kind of like that idea. Let's just try it first when he's jumping. And I mean, the only two places we're going to need this is jump and fall. So this was why I didn't really want to put it in the superclass, because we don't need to move in idle because you're stopped. So let's just try it for now, and then we'll see. We'll see what happens. I think camera basis is returned out of our rotate, so we can just do this with it. And so that's during the jump. And move and slide will get, I don't even have move and slide in here because we weren't doing anything. So move and slide will get automatically in there. But then the fall, we needed to apply move and slide, I think, because we were applying the gravity. So because we were still moving the player. Whereas in our jump, I mean, we were moving him. Why didn't I need to apply it here? That's weird. Something's weird. We might have to revisit that. All right, so on fall, let's do move as well. I have a feeling this might be overkill because I've handled this another way before, and I may have to revisit it to make sure that this is going to make sense. But let's just see what happens. I have no idea what's going to happen right now. Okay, well, what happened was exactly what should happen. You can jump now and then push the arrow forward and then move. Oh, I know what I can do. All right, so this is working actually, as I said, I had no idea what was going to happen, but I guess I knew exactly what was going to happen because this is what's happening. I can jump and I can still move, right? So I'm still able to, in both the fall state and the jump up state. So if I just jumped off the platform, I would be able to still like move because you'd be in the fall state, which is the current state that's on the screen. But let's try it in the other ones to make sure it's synchronized. Come on, look the other way, dude. All right, and then I'm up here now. Yeah, you can see you can kind of shift around. If you don't want that in your game, well, like I said before with the rotation stuff, you can move away from putting this in the superclass and just use composition to have different types of I guess movement nodes that encapsulate that logic. Now let's run it on the last one to make sure that we're fully, so we can rotate and move in whatever direction you're going. And the little like epiphany I had 2 seconds ago when I was like, oh wait, I'm gonna get to that in a second. What that was, what I was saying about, I was thinking that when you jump, you are in a like reduced state of movement. So if you wanted during your jump or fall states, when you're calling player, move player, in theory, couldn't you just have like another parameter in here that was like speed so that you can like reduce how fast, like when you're on the ground, you should be able to move faster, right? You should be able to or sprint or run. And maybe that modifier to move left or right, or left or right to just, oh, I have a bug. Oh, that's that non-important bug. Okay. If you pass in a modifier for speed based on like if you're jumping or falling and you want to be able to go a little slower, then you could pass in a walk, a parameter for that. So you could have like you could add another parameter here that was like speed, and then in your idle, or in your jump or fall, you could just pass in that here, and this would be your like jump, fall, or fall speed or whatever, and maybe it would be slower. Like you can move slower when you're jumping because you don't want to have people to go crazy with their jumps, their jump speed. That would be a little weird. So maybe that's something that we should do here. I don't know. I think that seems like a pretty good idea. So like right now, walk speed is just hard coded to 5. It's like a float, but maybe how do we do default values? Can we just do, how do you do default values in Godot? Is it like that? I think it's like that. And then when you're falling, we don't have to pass it, but I want him to move a little slower. So let's make it, I think we should make it a float. Too much stuff. Let's try to make this float. So I think that'll work. No, I don't know. Let's try. So when you're falling, it's going to be 1. And then when you jump up, maybe it'll be a little faster. Oh, I already added it. Let's make it like 2 when you jump up, and then it slows down when you're falling. Is this how you do that? I don't know. Off the top of my head. Yeah, so like when you first jump, maybe you can like switch directions faster, but then when you fall, it slows down. I don't know if you can really notice that. Move, jump, fall. Like, yeah, I'm only in jump for like a split second. Like if you look at my log down there, let's just jump. Let's just move just so we can. Okay, so he's in idle. And then if I hit jump, he goes, just move to reset it. If I jump, it just goes jump, fall right away. So you're not going to be in jump long enough to really have it matter. And I think that's why I didn't need to do the move and slide earlier, because it's just, you're just in it so quick. It's like yeah. So I guess you'll have to, this is just my default implementation of the jump and fall states. If you want to have a more dramatic jump animation, you probably will have to mess around with that and potentially add that delay that I had removed earlier from the jump up logic. Yeah. So if you wanted to have him like really do like a low jump or a power jump, this is all just changes you're going to have to refactor through composition and add those things. But I think this is good for like a starting template. Yeah. Like I said, it doesn't really matter. So if I walk with my walk speed, I can get across the map pretty fast. But if I jump, it's going to be slower, right? Almost looks faster. So walk, 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 walk. I don't know. Let me see if I can slow it way down. Where is it? Under fall. Let's do like 0.1. Should be able to apply right away. No, it doesn't look like it's slowing down at all. Is it because my assumption about setting default variables is wrong? Yeah, I think I'm doing it correctly. So, and to just prove it, let's just print it out. Let's just print out the speed. So speed is 5, and now speed is 0.5. Kind of feels the same speed though, to be honest. Maybe not. Well, it probably is an addition of the velocity, right? So if I'm walking and then I add the speed to it, it's an addition of a velocity. It's not just take over the velocity the way that this is programmed. So if I just start at idle and I jump and move, that is probably slower than just walking that. It's kind of hard to prove. But it really kind of feels the same. Yeah, okay, I'm dumb. All right. I mean, I'm not dumb, but sometimes I make mistakes. So let's fix these mistakes. So I was just using, it was actually the same because I didn't actually replace, I was using the constant at the top. All right, now we're going to use the parameter. I hope nobody sees that. All right, so now if I jump, whoa, that was kind of cool looking. So if I jump, oh, is it because the speed of the, anyways, so yeah, I can't even move. It's so slow. All right, so let's go back to fall, and let's bump it up to 2. Have something more realistic again. Yeah, so see how fast I'm moving in walk, which is 5. But if I jump, it's much slower. Yeah, you can see how much slower it is. Yeah, all right, cool. We got it. We got it figured out. Yeah, I want the jump to be less control. I want you to have less control over the jump speed. So let's just create a cool little constant for that. All right, so we got to figure it out. I don't know. This stuff's fun for me. I like this stuff. And our jump velocity is our jump upward velocity. So we should say fall velocity or fall speed. No, it's actually move. I'm gonna call it jump move speed. And when we jump up, I'm gonna give the player a little bit more. And it's gonna be so quick. It's really not even gonna matter. So we're gonna pass that in, and then I'm doing like too many things here. So I'm gonna just for human readability, we're gonna move it out, and then for the fall, let's go and add fall move speed, and then we're gonna set that to 2 because that felt pretty good to me. That felt pretty good, and then we can just remove that move and slide because it's in our move. Okay, so I think we're okay. We've got a good update on the movement while you're in the air. Sorry, where was I? And jump, add fall state transition to work after we applied upward dry minimal movement input so the player can move. Yeah, we got it. So we just did that. Cool. I love removing to-dos. It is my favorite thing to do in the world. Just kidding. May I need to use process input. Okay, yeah, that's true. I'm gonna revisit that much later because I'm not sure about that. And we can clean up our move player function out of here. We need to add code for handling movement in jump fault. We got it. We got it done. And we are just chugging along today. State. I want to remove that print statement because I don't need to see that printed out. All right. So now run modifier. I think run modifier was the last thing I wanted to look at today. So the run modifier, I think for now we can just put it in or leverage the move player area where I already had it. So we have this run input and we have access to player input. Yes, right. Inputter. Oh yeah, we're no longer doing it that way. So I think I can do that. And I think this will change to a function. So if we go to our superclass, get movement input, I don't think I have the word run in here. Yeah, I don't have it yet. So we're going to add it. Function get run. And I don't remember what that was. Run input is just true or false. Obviously, I should have known that. So that'll be our bool, and then we'll return move component, which is a synchronized, our players inputs that are synchronized, and then let's grab the run component or the run input. So we can do get run instead of trying to, in case we refactor, we can always just resort back to using get run. And where was it in our, okay, so if get run is true, then our speed factor needs to be faster. So again, if you are passing in a modifier for your speed, depending on whether you're jumping or running or you have like a power up or something like that, you could always pass in the speed modifier here. Now with run, maybe you don't want them to have a modifier if they're not on the ground, right? That's going to be up to you. I'm not going to do anything like that. I'm just going to say, if you're running, you get to do whatever your speed is 1.5 times faster. So that's our run modifier. Let's create a constant for that. Let's create a constant called constant. Let's do it up here. Constant run modifier. And I think I said 1.5. So it's just like it's just, 1.5 times the speed at which you are currently moving. Run. That's why it's run modifier. So that is this. So if our run modifier in this case is shift. So if we go back really quick, my input, my input action is run is mapped to my shift key. If shift is held, our position target, which is, speed times direction, we're going to up it even more, and then we'll run faster. So I think that's it. I think that'll be really quick. And, hopefully that's true. Let's hit host game. So let's just walk over here and then hold shift, and he's going faster, and then slow down. I remove it, goes faster. Yeah. So let's try to do this. If I jump in air, it's really slow. Look how slow he's moving back and forth. I hold shift. It's a little faster. It's definitely a little faster. Hold shift, no shift. Hold shift, no shift. Yeah, it is. You can't really tell on the stream probably, but here's with run, here's with no run. Here's with run, no run. Run. Actually, I don't know if it's working. Run, no run. It's so subtle. You're only moving like half this, a little, like just a little, like. Yeah, it is working. It's just so subtle. Maybe we can up it to something more significant, like 2.5. Yeah, and then you can clearly see it. So that's without it. It's without it, with it. Whoa, shoot, I almost run off the edge. Without it, with, out, with, no, on, off, on, yeah. Yeah, so see how much farther I can jump to the right or left, and if I like take it off, so now it's not on, it's much slower. All right, so we got that working. Let's make sure that it works on all the clients. Let's see, it might be more obvious in this way. So that's with it off, right? And this is with it on. I can jump, I can move much faster. I mean, our animation's a little weird because there's no run animation, it's just walk. Oh, and I don't have a strafe. So you guys are going to have to build your own strafe. I don't have this. Kenny's assets didn't come with a strafe, which is unfortunate. But for a template, I think we're going to have to, I'm going to have to just not do that. Cause I mean, at that point it gets pretty complicated, but it would have been nice if we could have strafe. Maybe he'll update that someday. I did just get a big update from him, from his all-in-one package, but I doubt he's got anything like that in there. Okay. Good work, and good work on Kenny too. Thanks, Kenny. So our run modifier, run modifiers there, and we're applying it when we hold shift. I don't know why this is commented out. I like to leave things commented out for a while because at some point I like to know what was there before, because maybe that'll make, maybe when I'm solving another problem, it'll make sense. But after a certain point, there's like this threshold of, yeah, I don't really need that anymore. And I think I just hit that with a lot of this code. And I talked about this in, I think, my last stream when I was working on this, that a lot of this code is based off of the Shaggy Devs example projects that I had. And we talked about that in a previous stream. And it's not my code, right? You're taking somebody else's code and you're trying to refactor it into your project. I didn't have a state machine, so I spent the last few streams, this is the third stream now, trying to get a state machine working. And at this point, I feel so much more confident about, I've taken ownership over this code, and it's how many hours? That's like almost 6 hours of work, to where now I feel very comfortable with it. I have an idea of the flow of it. I'm not struggling as much. Things are kind of falling into place. And if you're starting out or if you're doing something like this and you're just unsure, it'll be confusing at first, and you may struggle through things, and just give it some time. Just plow through it, just make the mistakes. And you could see I'm adding code here, and then I'm removing code once it doesn't make sense to have it anymore. And I do those within hours, within just a couple hours, I've changed those things. So just keep that in mind when you're trying something new. And if you're an experienced developer, you don't need to hear this, but if you're just getting into something like, even multiplayer, like it takes time before you get that ownership, and you have to just make a mistake and, make the effort, and eventually you'll get it. So, there was one more thing that I think we should tackle, because I just saw the to-do, there should have been a to-do for it, but there's not, is when you fall, not after a jump. So if you just fall off a platform, you should go into that jump mode. And I left this to remind me about that. So I just saw it. Let's try to tackle that really quick. We've got our modifier done, so we got all our to-dos done for today. So happy to have that finished. I don't think I need this state moved to idle anymore. That was for debugging, and don't hesitate to debug like crazy. Put those debug statements in there. Wow, I got some old stuff in here. Yeah, it even says old stuff. Yeah, this was old. Let's just remove this. We don't need this anymore. I'm comfortable with where we're at. I kept it because I didn't feel warm and fuzzy about everything yet, and I needed to see those references, or I may wanted to refer back to those references, but now we made that progress, and I feel much more comfortable and feel confident that I can remove them. And of course we have that committed, so I can always just look back at our commit history. And I have this note up here about rotating the actual player object proper, but I'm going to hold off on that. Let's just run through everything really quick. Our player input script is solid. We don't need to see that. Our state machine is pretty solid. Player, we just went through move. We've been working through idle. Fall seems good. And yeah, so I think idle and move needs that are we no longer on the floor detection. I don't know. I guess on idle, how would that happen if the floor just moved out from underneath you? That if your game has a platform, that could happen. So you would say if your parent is on floor in idle, otherwise you're in a fall state. Apply gravity. Hey, you're in a fall state. Yeah, I think we almost have to just do that. I don't really have a way to test that right now. Yeah, I guess I could. I think I have a way to do it. So let's just grab our fall state reference, put it up in there, and that's our idle. So let's select idle and drag over fall. What? Oh, spelled it wrong. And by the way, if you guys are in stream and you're just hanging out, great. If you do have any questions, did I add this to the wrong one? No, I didn't. Okay. If you have any questions, I might be on a roll here, but I'll do my best to try to answer anything during the streams. If you have any, multiplayer questions, what's this note here? If get jump, these may not be needed. Get jump, get movement input. Okay, I see what I was saying. Well, I think they're going to have to be either or because they're different states. And I don't think we need started moving anymore. But I'm going to leave it in case somebody needs to do debug, or if I need to debug later on. And this is, of course, idle. If we're not on floor, that means we're in a fall state. And once we go to a fall state, then you're falling until you hit the ground. So, and also if we move, I'm going to just copy this unless I think we have, no, we don't. So let's grab our move state or select it and drag over fall. Sometimes it does that. And if, I guess we can move it to the move thing for now. Yeah, right now, I don't have a detection for whether or not we're in the ground because my move is generic. So it would be weird to put it in here because this move is called from like the fall state itself. So you wouldn't go from a fall state to a fall state. Like that would be weird. So maybe if while moving, you are not on the ground. So if you jump, you jump. Okay. So you're in a jump state. Else, we're going to apply. Else, if you're not moving, well, you're going to go to the idle state. But what if, and this is and on the floor, but what if you're not on the floor? Oh man, what if you're not on the floor? L if not on floor. Then you're going to go to fall state. You're going to get taken to the fall state. Yeah. And you're going to fall forever. So the way to check that is to run off the edge. I mean, it just did it. It just worked because he gets dropped in and then he hit the ground and he move idle. Yeah, you can see the top line here at the bottom. This line, he was in fall state because he wasn't on the ground. So that means it's going to work in theory. So as soon as I jump off this edge, sorry, not jump. If I just run off this edge, he should immediately go to that fall state. And he does. Nice. All right. That's exactly what I wanted to see. And he's going to remain perpetually because it's infinite. I wonder how long the game engine would actually support this. Like, would he fall infinitely? Like, when does the buffers start overflowing? Anyways. So another check is, let's go back to our game 3D. And I think I have, the spawn, map spawn point is, map spawn point. Okay, player spawn point should be, the player spawn point is literally there. I thought I used a marker for that. I should be using a marker. Oh, no, I'm sorry. These are where the players are spawned into the world. All right, forget whatever I just said. Yeah, I'm not gonna get sidetracked right now. Okay, so world, let me just add I think it's static body. Yeah, we'll just do a test, and I think I can just add a mesh to this. And we'll just create a little box. And we're going to move the box over there. And I think I want to adjust this to 5. No. He's not going to be able to jump up there. I don't think he's going to be jumping up there either, but that's okay. This is complaining about collision shape. So did I do that wrong? Yes. No. Yes, maybe. Let's get rid of the mesh 3D instance. And then I think, so that's up in the air. And I think what we can do is, I think I can add it. I think I do this. Sorry, I always forget. Mesh 3D instance. And then I think if I do a box, it'll just inherit the collision shape size. All right. Oh. And let's actually reset the transforms of that, which looks like everything is in order there. And now when I move it, it'll move together. All right. So I want to, if I select this and I make this 3, that's the collision shape. And then I also have to update the mesh. It should line up. Yep. Okay. So now if I move them, he should be able to have something he can jump on. And then we're going to test by moving it out of the way so that we can test our idle. Let me just make sure I can actually jump on it. Yep. Okay. I mean, it already worked. So when he falls, yep. So that's what we want. So there's our fall state. Boom. Goes into that. The jump's a little wonky, but whatever. And let's see if I move it out of the way. Not on that session. Not there. There. Okay. So we got to go into our world, and here's our little test static body. I think I can move this. So I'm going to just yank it. And if he goes into the fall animation, then we know our idle version of the fall works. And it worked perfectly. All right. Hopefully everybody saw that demo and I don't have to do it again. All right. So wait, why is he showing like he's, oh, he's not. Okay, cool. So, oh, it's because I moved it and it's not, the box isn't synchronized. Okay. So he's actually like running into it. I mean, it's correct in his version of the game, but not on the server's version of the game because I'm not synchronizing. All right, cool. So I think we got it. I think we got it figured out, and I'm really excited about that. I'm gonna leave the box for now. We're gonna call it test box, and you guys can play around with that. This template has I think we've made a lot of progress today. And into like wrapping up a lot of what I was hoping to wrap up with it. I still think there's a lot of stuff that we need to go over and visit. I need to think about what I want to do next. I think we can put a cap on our state machine track right now. Like, you know, the goals that we had with getting the state machine switching between the 4 main states. I finally got that working. I'm comfortable with it now, at least to a degree where now we can start optimizing and that kind of thing. Yeah, there's a couple things like this process input that was from the original source repository that I'm considering removing. So if you end up seeing this on YouTube and you want to, or if you watch this stream like tomorrow or over the next week, drop by my Discord and leave me a comment. I don't know if you can get in touch with me on Twitch through chat during off stream time, but however you want to get a hold of me through Discord or whatever, and let me know what you want to see in this template. So that's the point of what I'm trying to say here is let me know what you want to see. I have a basic 3D template now. I'm going to try to commit this today and push it out and make it available for people to start playing around with it, not to add to it, but then you can start cloning it and adding your own changes to it. And I mean, eventually I'll accept pull requests, but not at this point. I want to polish it up a little bit more. But yeah, let me know what you guys want to see. Let me know if there's something else you want me to stream. I've got a lot more coming on the way. Yeah, I think I'm going to commit what we did today. I can even pull it up really quick. Yep, I can probably delete our player controller script, and we've got our fall stuff done. We've got our fall scene done. We made a box on the game scene, so I can commit that. Our player scene, I think we've got some changes to the movement state machine. Just made a quick comment there. We added all of our basic movement stuff to the parent because we're reusing it for now. Again, once I get into the lag compensation, I'm probably going to refactor this again. But I'll create another branch off of this so that everybody can pick and choose which level that they want to, which commit they want to start at, or which, level, I guess, point in progress they want to start at. So we got our jump wrapped up. And I'm going to remove that. We cleaned up our player script, and we added some stuff to the idle so that they can have a gravity applied if somehow like the ground falls out from underneath them. And our camera input, I just cleaned something up really quick. All right, so that's pretty much it for today. We just moved everything, all the movement stuff back up into the state superclass so that our move, jump, fall, and idle states can access those things as needed. Idle doesn't really access the movement stuff, but you know what I mean. Again, let me know what you guys want to see and I'll do my best. I'm going to probably commit this. So if you are interested, you can check out the branch add movement state machine. I originally started everything under this dev 3D multiplayer branch. So this was like a really, really dumbed down version of what you're seeing today without state machines. So you can move. I don't even think you can turn working with camera rotation. Yeah, so I guess you could turn with it at that point, but I didn't have animations or anything working. So you could really go back to that if you don't want to use state machines. That, you know, let me know. And anyways, or just like pull it down yourself once I get this committed to GitHub. And of course, I'm going to commit this now. So this will be another commit. So you can just pull down this and switch to this branch and have all these changes. And I'll create another branch because I think I want to start on lag compensation next. I think we're at a good spot. Otherwise, if you guys have any things you want to see before I do that, or in general, whatever, I can add that. Like we can do RPC calls. I'm already doing synchronization here with the player synchronizer and with the input synchronizer. If you want to see some RPC calls first, maybe before I get to the lag compensation, let me know, or any other multiplayer stuff. You know, I'd be happy to maybe investigate those things, but I want to still start with the basics. So anyways, thanks for tuning in today. I appreciate everybody coming. Please stay connected and follow and subscribe. I greatly appreciate it. Have a good one, everyone.